Hello ladies, gentlemen, and deceased. My name is Emily Sophia, and I'm going to be walking you guys through the latest of The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 11, Claimed. So, before we dive into the thick of things, be warned that there are plenty of spoilers ahead, so if you're not yet caught up on all of the shenanigans that have ensued up to this point, if you're interested, I suggest that you queue up this review and come on back to it when you're all set, and we will discuss until the deal is dead. So, without further ado, let us get into the madness. So I will first say, before talking about all of the individual story arcs and all the things that we saw ensue in this episode, the three new characters that we have that are apparently from the comics, and again, I'm not yet fully caught up, so I can't, in this vlog at least, make parallels between the way that the characters appear in the show as compared to in the comics. But feel free to discuss away in the comment section amongst yourselves, you know, kind of spoiler alerts here and there as you explore things, because I like to read what you guys think, and I'm also trying to catch up on the comics myself. So we've got Sergeant Abraham Ford, played by Michael Cudlitz from Southland, and then we have Rosita Espinosa, played by Christian Serratos, who's apparently in the Twilight movies and a bunch of like tween Disney dramas, which I think this is an interesting leap for her as far as the material that she works on, but congratulations to her. I mean, this is I dare say a far step up, and you know, we'll see what this leads to for her. And then we also have Dr. Eugene Porter, played by Josh McDermott from Retired at 35. And, you know, I like a little something about all these characters so far. It's exciting to encounter new players in the game that aren't arguably maliciously evil. I'm talking the governor. You know, it was fun to have him and to meet and encounter him, knowing that he was going to be some crazy menace, which he was. And that's fun to see play out, you know. We love the bad guys. It's what we do, but at the same time, it's really refreshing to have some characters that are, I mean, they're complex, but arguably more on the light side of the spectrum as compared to the dark side. So, Sergeant Abraham Ford, you know, he's got a tough as nails way about him, a bit of a sense of humor, you know, when he's knocking out the walkers at the very beginning of the episode, and Tara is a little bit perplexed as to why he appears to be enjoying the crap out of life in that situation, you know. I don't really see that so much as being like a sociopathic, you know, upwelling of the darkness of his soul, so much as it is a guy who's seen a lot of stuff in the world and is just trying to, you know, seize the day. You really can't blame a guy. I mean, if killing's what you gotta do for a living, you may as well keep a little spring in your step and find a way to make things pleasurable in some not completely sadistic sense. But, you know, so I think he's an interesting guy. And his conversation with Tara towards the end kind of points out, you know, he's not exactly cut and dry. I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders, but at times it reaches a boiling point and, you know, violence ensues where there's frustration, as is evidenced with his little skirmish with Glenn, as everyone started neglecting the ever so critical Bill Nye the Science Guy of the party, who we kind of need to keep, you know, this precious cargo in a good place. Yeah, but I really like him. I like Michael's portrayal of the character so far. It's got a funny side, got a little bit of roughness, you know, all kinds of good stuff. So, I mean, let me know what you guys think as far as, like, are you enjoying the way that he's being portrayed thus far? If you've read the comics, is this kind of what you would anticipate? Do you like it? Let me know. And then with Rosita, we haven't seen a ton of her. Don't really know yet quite what she's capable of, but I'm guessing that that's something that's going to kind of come down the pipes as the episodes continue. And, you know, she's kind of got this Lara Croft-ness about her, so I know when my brother and I were watching tonight, he's officially going to be calling her by that nickname, and I think it kind of fits. She's got the aesthetic, you know, she can play the part. But yeah, so and I like that that she was the first to follow after Glenn and Tara, and she's just kind of like, well, you guys do as you will, but let's just keep moving. You know, I like that mentality, and as the whole Goldilocks and the Three Bears incident at the Grimes/Michonne residence shows, trying to, you know, settle down, buckle down, and make a life for yourself without all your ducks in a row is not going to work out. And arguably, we're in a stage in the game where getting one's ducks in a row is an impossible task. So yeah, but so Rosita, we'll see what's going on with her. I am interested to see how her character develops. And then we've got Dr. Eugene Porter, whom I love. The guy, there's just something about him and the way that he just gets up in Abraham's face, and not in a cruel or callous way, but it's just like, let's just keep going. Just FYI, I'm smarter than you, so let's do what I'm thinking we should do. I like that attitude. I like the self-confidence. It brings me joy in a time of deep and abounding trauma. And he too has a sort of sense of humorness about him, sort of subtleness, and of course the whole scene where everybody's joining in the whole fight club, and he's trying to hold down the fort as the zombies are getting interested in what's happening on the roadway, and shenanigans ensue. They lose their burly vehicle as he's trying to defend himself, you know, etc., etc. But I really like his character. I like his mentality, his outlook. I also like the fact that he bears science in his veins and in his brain, okay? Finally, the magical, mystical return of science to the fray, because, you know, we haven't seen anything in the show touch on the issue of what's behind the plague, what's behind the virus since the very first season. Because, you know, there was the whole, that was in the finale, I believe, when everybody got to the base, and then there's the whole like, woo, this actually isn't gonna work, now let's just kind of, everybody do what you want to do. You can blow up, or you can attempt to slowly blow up over time by living through the zombie apocalypse, you know? Take your pick, make your gamble, and see how it goes. But yeah, so it's really exciting that we're returning to the idea that there is a cure, there's a way to possibly go about, you know, making sure that we can stop the shenanigans or maybe heal people. So that's cool. We've got science back in the game. So we've got Laura Croft, Bill Nye the Science Guy. I'm not quite sure what I want to call Mr. Abraham Lincoln. But at the same time, I don't really know if that fits. I think he'd need a top hat or you know, some kind of political stance relevant to the issues of the 1860s in United States history in order to more accurately be compared to Abraham Lincoln. But if you guys haven't, I cannot talk tonight, I apologize for that. If you guys have any other fun nicknames or ideas, whatever, leave them in the comments. So, all that to say, I'm really enjoying these new characters so far, and I'm anxious to see if others from the former prison group are going to be able to meet up with them. I mean, there's a lot of questions right now, and again, we have another episode that's kind of a slow-burning story, considering that we have all these new characters in the fray. And then that was also coupled with the, primarily with the Rick, Carl, and Michonne storyline, which had a couple different parts to it. So it was sort of these three major stories throughout. And then it looks like next week we're returning to what's going on with Beth and Daryl. We didn't get to see anything of Maggie and Bob and Sasha. We didn't get to see anything of Tyrese and Carol and Lizzie and Mika. So there's a lot of other faces out there wandering the wilderness that I'm quite curious about. But let's go back first and talk about what happened at the delightful little homestead that is now kind of no more a thing. But we all knew that was coming. It was just kind of a temporary fix, sort of a lily pad from which to leap, quite possibly into an ocean of new opportunity and excitement. I promise I'll try not to torture you guys too much with my metaphors. I am an English major. It's not entirely something I can help. But yeah, so we got to see Carl and Michonne chilling together again, and I like them as a duo. And it was interesting that their relationship kind of took a maternal turn as Carl was abounding with questions about Michonne's past upon discovering that she had a son. And then, you know, Michonne kind of teases him through the whole, like, clear the room, find out something crazy about my past game. Yeah, and, you know, she's sensitive on the subject, and I think it's interesting because she comes across as so secretive about her past, and that's sort of how Carl interprets it, since, you know, he's only just now finding out about this stuff. But then after all is revealed in that department, well, not all, there's still other details that were hinted at in the last episode that focused on her, which were not explored in this one. I think necessarily so, but now, you know, they were, Michonne was saying, you know, it's not actually a secret. Carl's like, yeah, your secret's safe with me. But she was sort of realizing how vulnerable she has not wanted to be, how she has kept all of these things to herself and just sort of fuming inside her. And she finds it in her to trust Carl with this information, to see into this part of her, while at the same time kind of treating him almost like a son in some respects, which I think is funny because I know a lot of people have talked about them as like a couple. I mean, everyone's constantly trying to pair Carl off to someone, or, you know, the Grimes brothers, apparently they're in need of a little pick-me-up in their love lives, but, which, I mean, I would like to see that for Rick, but at the same time, there's a lot of other concerns that take precedence over, you know, get the Grimes, you know, for making like a reality TV love show, sort of a Walking Dead version of The Bachelor, I don't know. Anyways, I think Michonne would go better with Rick, but let's get back to the focus. Yeah, so she, and they have Carl and Michonne kind of have an interesting bonding point as Carl comes to terms slowly with Judith's loss, and then Michonne with the loss of her own family. So they have that sort of bonding in the losses that they've experienced. They sort of mesh together in that way, and as a whole, Michonne is kind of finding her way into the broken Grimes family. You know, she's basically the main lady unit right now, although as far as we know, Judith is still out there. But there's absolutely no way of knowing if she is going to, or well, if ultimately she'll be restored to her family. We just have no way of knowing that. Yeah, so I really liked the character development in that respect. And then, of course, you know, Michonne is trying to... Well, actually, I should go back and say also that we got to see even further into Michonne's past and the emotions that are conjured up from that when she found the bedroom with the dead family inside, and just what an overwhelming shock that was to her, as she's sort of been, you know, these doors to her former self have been, you know, they're getting opened up. She's finding those keys in her mind, and whether she likes it or not, the knobs are turning, and there it all is. There's this reality in who she's been. And so it's sort of the struggle between her cool and confident facade, sort of mixed with that humorous side as always, and then the past self that she is fighting against whenever she fights anything else. I think that struggle is behind it. The struggle of being a widow, of being almost orphaned in a sense. It's sort of like a reverse orphaning. I feel like there's a word for that I'm just forgetting, and I'm using words in all kinds of weird ways. But yeah, so we got to, so really cool bonding moments. And then, meanwhile, Rick is just trying to hang out, chill, take a little nap, read some Jack London, do productive stuff with his life until his body is 100%. But that whole experience turns into a rather hectic little stealth mission, which was kind of reminiscent of The Last of Us. If you guys have played that video game, it reminds me of the part where, well, actually I don't want any spoilers for those of you who haven't played the game yet, but it just in general reminded me of that kind of situation. Very tense, very awkward and exciting. I think that that was the most fun arc of the episode. The most fun in that it was stressing my brain out, and we know that Rick is going to inevitably find his way out. But what's interesting about watching Rick at this stage in the game is his movements are so spasmodic. It makes me really nervous and uncomfortable just watching him. Just the sweating and like the twitching, and I mean, you can understand he sustained quite a beating from the governor back in the not so distant days of the governor and all that fun. But at the same time, it's just like when he's in that crisis situation facing that alone. The whole reason he didn't go on the mission with Michonne and Carl was because he needed to take some time off. Not exactly getting that. So it's like I said, the situation was kind of like this crazy reverse Goldilocks and the Three Bears, wherein Rick is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or well, I guess it's more like four or something, invade his crib. And he decides to kind of hang out and plot his course whilst the shenanigans ensue and people fight over beds and kill their friends over sleeping space. It just baffles me that people like that are able to be alive at this stage in the game. It's like, if you're that much of a douchebag, like, I mean, I'm guessing that they're all just douching up a storm together and they can tolerate that until somebody wants to take a freaking nap. Evidently, I'm just surprised they hadn't killed each other already. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun to see, you know, Rick in this, I mean, compromised state trying to strategize his way out of this, and you know, it was quite nerve-wracking to see, but he pulled a good move, you know, climbing down off the roof, getting his bearings together, and I mean, everything just sort of, everything went better than expected. Of course, just at the very time when Carl and Michonne are returning and Rick is there and he's poisoned, the guy's outside, and just, you know, the perfect storm, all of a sudden we hear the howling upstairs, and we know that nature has taken its delightful course and people are getting their just desserts. But yeah, so I'm glad they were all able to get out of that relatively unscathed. I mean, it sucks that they lost a bunch of supplies in the house, I can assume. At least Carl and Michonne just went on what we can hope was a pretty successful supply run. So they'll have enough stuff to get to wherever they're gonna be. And then the question is, you know, the whole all who arrive survive sign and the land that is advertising. We see that Rick and Michonne and Carl are checking that out and heading in that direction. So are we heading into yet another Woodbury, or could this be a whole new world of fantastic dream and wonder? I couldn't tell you guys, but anything could happen. Yeah, so I mean, those of you, some of you comic people probably know. I'm assuming it seems like something that people who've read the comics are familiar with, from what I've heard. So again, I just need to stop being ignorant so I can actually like make these connections. But yeah, so, and then of course going back to the plot with Glenn and Tara and Abe and Laura Croft and Bill Nye. You know, got all bases loaded and the tensions are high. Glenn is not taking it sitting down that he's not going to be able to see Maggie again. And of course, we as viewers having that dramatic irony of knowing that Maggie is still out there. We know that there's that chance, and it's incredibly viable, and just the force of romance and true love will freaking conquer, and they will come together, right? I mean, it is the post-apocalyptic world, and generally the odds are not in favor of good things happening to good people, because bad things happen to good people and bad people. Just the great leveler of all mankind, literally. So I mean, it is my hope and desire that they get to find one another again, and I'm so glad that their passion for one another is still so alive in the midst of this. I mean, I think that Suffice it to say, Glenn is a bit discouraged, but you know, his tenacity had everybody else following him in the end too. And you know, Tara is hedging her bets on him, and then the crew having, you know, down a vehicle now at this point and seeing how good of a fighter Glenn is, they do well to join his side, you know. And like Abraham was saying, they need people for what they're doing, and it'd be a crying shame for them to have wasted all the hours they spent on the road just for the new people that they picked up to, you know, go Splitsville. So yeah, so I mean, it's good that everybody is together. Well, that corner of the universe, those people are all bonded and trying to figure things out. Question is, are they going to get to Washington? All the other shenanigans, what's going to be waiting for them there? Again, still so many questions on the horizon, as we know that there are about a dozen other people that we're anxious to see what's going on with. Yeah, and as the season progresses, I mean, I feel like things are going to culminate in a reunion of some sort. Maybe like one or two other minor reunions before the season is out, and then one freaking big one where emotions are high and embraces are electrically charged. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anymore, and I like the surprise and the unknowing, and it's some exciting stuff. I also know of some other looming comic characters that people have been hinting about, so I feel that maybe the next comic arc could be introduced by the end of the season, if not slightly before. I don't know. I'm just kind of shooting at the wind here, so let me know your thoughts, your predictions, your desires. What did you like about this episode? What was fun and exciting and not fun but still exciting, or any and everything under the sun? I thought it was really a fun episode. I had a fun time watching it with my siblings and making our commentary as we do, so that's kind of part of what makes watching the show such a fun experience for me, is doing it communally and sort of breaking down the characters and and all that stuff. So yeah, if you guys enjoy the show and enjoy my thoughts, feel free to follow me on Twitter, because I more often than not do live tweeting of the new episodes on Sunday nights. You can also follow my Facebook page and my Tumblr, links in the description. I've got a whole bunch of other videos coming down the pipes once I'm done with midterms, so stick around. I've got new shows. Hannibal is coming back this Friday. Bates Motel is hitting the silver screen on Monday, I believe. Yeah, it's like March 3rd for that, February 28th for Hannibal. I've got some other gaming vlogs and then possibly a little bit of music as well, so stick around for that if you guys like. Thank you for being so supportive and wonderful. All in all, great episode. Good tensions. I'm fascinated to see where things are gonna go. I'm glad that the sort of mini homestead has been abandoned and that Rick and Carl and Michonne are moving and working it. I love it. That's good. I'm excited for next week. See who we're gonna see. I mean, that's kind of how this goes. We're cycling through all the different character arcs, and eventually something is going to collide and fuse and make a whole new magical experience. And that's what keeps the show fresh. So you guys take care, and as always, I will be back before you know it.
Leads you here despite your destination under the Milky